Coming up on the dirty side of the track this week. What turned Rob into an owl? Sorry for people just listening to the pod, this is going to be the YouTube version, because every time it cut to it, I had to do this. And oh boy, Karun, what have you done?
Nope, so close. It was like you were almost there. You knew it was the meat in the McLaren sandwich or the Oscar sandwich, whatever but you don't name it after the bread, Karun. We've done videos on this. Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian. That's Rob. About an hour ago was the Austrian Grand Prix. I loved it. I think Rob did too. We can't wait to talk about it. Welcome, everybody.
It was brilliant. I was a little bit skeptical I was going to enjoy things this morning because I won't lie, I was up at the crack of dawn to take my daughter and son to a swim meet at Wesleyan University. They had to be there by 6:15 a.m. and it's 40 minutes away. So yeah, it was quite the start, which also meant that I was consigned to watching the race on my phone, which also meant I knew I wasn't going to be able to do notes properly. So thank you, Brian, for taking notes. And so I was all a little bit down. And then I ran into Juan. I'd seen him yesterday at the swim meet. He was wearing a Columbia shirt, and as he walked past me, he was looking at his phone. And on his phone was FP3. And I thought, this is my guy. He's got a football top on, and he's watching F1. And I saw him today, and we were both doing the same dad maneuvers, trying to work out when our kids could swim in. We're swimming so we could run back to our cars to watch the race and see if we could not miss any swim action. And it was just, he's very happy because Colombia are through to the last 32 of the World Cup, and he's a long-suffering Ferrari fan like me as well. So shout out to Juan from Sea Dog Swim Team. It was a pleasure to meet you, sir. But yes, it was a great race. I absolutely loved it. We'll get on to kind of how it all panned out in the end. But if you can have one of those races where you feel like you can't pull your eyes away for too long because you're worried you might miss something, wherever it is along the grid, this was one of them. This is one of those things where something was always going on. So we will do that. It's a back-to-back, so this week will constitute of our normal rambling down news and social, mixed up where Cadillac Corner finds its way this week. Yeah. Cadillac Corner is fluid. It's like platform 9 3/4. You've got to work out where to find it.
Well, wherever it is, we should bring a fire extinguisher.
Yeah. Brian will open up the video vault, and for the podium lovers amongst you, you're going to be disappointed. And then we'll do the race weekend review, work out what happened in all of that, and then we'll do a preview because it's Silverstone next week. So
that's awesome. I'm so excited.
Let's jump in. Now, the first one disappoints me. A, as a Ferrari fan, B, as a lover of innovation wars. So technical trick pioneered by Ferrari is going to be banned by F1 ahead of next season. So Ferrari have got this cool little exhaust wing mounted just above the tailpipe. So as the exhaust gas comes out, I guess it does something fancy with aerodynamics, and it just basically increases the length of the diffuser, but legally, totally legal. It didn't breach any regulation anyway, but the FIA have said, we are keen to avoid a potential development war in this area, so we'll just close off the development opportunities in this area crucial for performance. Why? You've got a cost cap. People look at that little wing and say, ooh, I like the look of that. Should we build one? Then the people, all the bean counters are going to go, well, you can spend some of your money making the fancy little wing above the exhaust, but that means we won't have enough for fire extinguishers or other things. I'm not sure. But, like,
forks
why?
And knives. Yeah.
Why stop a development war if it's legal? I don't
and
really
you have
get
the
it.
cost cap, so it's not as though, teams can just copy everything from everybody else and throw it all at the wall and see what works. Well, it was Monaco where Lewis was inspecting all the cars, and he was on his knees, like crawling around looking at the Mercedes, and he's having a good time back there inspecting away. I love that. I love innovation. I love when teams do something like the Macarena wing, and other teams copy it, and some people can't get it right, and some people give it a shot. McLaren was supposed to have tried their Macarena wing this week, didn't get it on the car. And I love that idea. So yeah, I'm with you. This is a real bummer. It would be different if it were a foul of the regulation somehow or in a gray area, but it seems like it was allowed, and they're like, well, we're going to cut that out. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. But speaking of upgrades and things like that, Alonso doesn't know where teams are getting all their money for their upgrades. So his quote was, apparently, and he's talking about Aston Martin here, apparently there is no money to bring upgrades, unlimited upgrades, like the other teams do. It's surprising to see the FIA upgrades page on a Friday every race. Maybe they have a money machine in the factory. No, Alonso, it's a cost cap. You've all got the same amount. I'm pretty sure Aston can afford to spend up to the cost cap. So maybe other teams are just spending it better? Question.
Well, they brought no upgrades. I mean, like, once again, another weekend with no upgrades. They're waiting on the B spec car, which is going to show up in one of 3 races in the future, and they're really hoping that changes things. It can't get worse. It just cannot get worse.
Now, flash forward in time. First
the,
time ever in recent Formula One history, Aston Martin denied entry to a Grand Prix because B spec is way over the 107% time. Deemed
uh,
dangerous to compete.
what's bigger than a downgrade? We'll find out. And then this one was news to me, and I'm reading it here, Rob. So they're working to bring back races that had been canceled. So we have 22 on the calendar as of now, the 2 that we lost earlier in the season. And it seems like they're going to try to bring one of them back? Question?
Yeah, they're saying that they think they've got a slot to fit neatly on the first weekend of
Hmm.
October to create a triple header. So you'll have Azerbaijan, then potentially Bahrain, and then Singapore. And they're saying Bahrain is the one out of the 2 that got cancelled that is most likely to come back. So they're exploring. It kind of would fit nicely. I think my geography is terrible, but from a logistics perspective, it's all kind of roughly in the same part of the world. Question? No, it's
No,
not, is it?
not really.
Well, it's not over here at least.
Yeah, it's
So
not. It's not in the Americas. I'll give you that. Not in Australia. Um, but yeah, that's fascinating. And I love Bahrain. So like that's one of my favorite tracks for reasons that still elude most people, myself included. So I would love if that came back.
why don't you regale us with which part of Bahrain is your favourite that ever happened?
Nah, I've done that 107 times.
Okay, so that's all we found in the news. It was a slow news week.
Yep.
So now, rather than jumping into the vault like we would normally do on a race weekend, let's cross the street and go and stand on Cadillac Corner.
Let's. I'm gonna put on the most temperature pleasing things I have because it's hot over here.
It's Cadillac Corner. It's Cadillac Corner. It's Cadillac Corner.
I they're really struggling with these brakes, and they brought 10 upgrades this week, and they've anyway. Take us through the
We're
corner.
not when we're not on the race weekend
I
yet,
know.
Ryan. Come
I'm
on,
just
don't,
so bummed.
don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead.
I'm bummed.
So now, if one of the things that Paul has been saying about a new team looking to grow need to sort of maybe upskill in strategy and those types of areas, well, Laurent Mekies was being asked about the prospect of losing a senior figure with Paul Monaghan. Yeah, being linked to Cadillac. So he's been part of Red Bull since 2005. He's risen up to the role of chief engineer of car engineering, crucial part of the team's trackside operations. And sources have indicated he's on the brink of a switch to Cadillac. So I mean, they've got to keep amassing, skill sets. There'll be some things they can teach internally. The other way will be to bring in folk from outside. So we'll see. We shall see what will happen on this one. But it seems like an area they do need to kind of get, you know, trackside operations might
Yeah.
need a little bit of a shot in the arm.
I mean, like we've talked about, they seem to be doing the right thing. It's just a matter of adding more muscle to the hustle at this point. And whether it's, memory muscle or whether it's talent of other kinds that may not have done something before but are really bright folks, just the more you have, the better, especially for a team like that. So can't hurt.
Agree. Now this one,
I didn't
this
see
one
this.
is almost maybe a video that I caught coming out of the vault, and maybe we can squeeze it back in, put on the third step. But this one I accidentally watched. I don't normally watch this type of stuff, so
Okay.
it was a Jim Beam Cadillac advert, commercial for Jim Beam. I'm like, okay, I'm not really that interested, but just something in there, in the way it was set up on the whatever social media platform I found it on, caught my eye because they're poking fun at PCWs.
Are they really?
Yes, the Paddock Club owners, which we like to poke fun at. This
and we wish we were
starts-
one. Just one more
We
time.
do,
for
yeah.
everyone.
We do wish we were PCWs,
Envious.
but we're not. And while we're not, we will poke fun at them in their little ivory
Exactly.
towers looking down on all of us. But it starts off with saying, "Oh, VIP access can really be enjoyed," and it shows these people having parties, and it shows a Cadillac car drive past, and everyone's all having a good time. And then it basically just sort of shifts, and it's just some people with a TV on a stand out in like the desert, outside like a little van with them all with deck chairs, all cracking open the Jim Beam mixer cans, saying it's not where you watch it, it's who you watch it with. And then it just shows all these fans, and it shows fans in the stadium. It's basically saying we all have way more fun the way we do it than you PCW lot do.
I mean, it is true. I do enjoy watching races with friends wherever it may be. But if my friends and I were also in the Paddock Club, that'd be fun too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. We will be the world's biggest hypocrites. That we will berate PCWs until the moment someone invites us to be one, and then it'll be the best thing ever.
Best thing ever. Speaking of the best thing ever, let's talk about some videos that were amazing. As Rob referenced, for fans of the podium approach, it's a little lacking this week because I only saw 2 videos. And so
that's why I'm saying Cadillac can be the honorary third step of the podium.
Beam
I'll post
ad.
a link to that one as well. Yeah, it's
Love
quite a funny ad.
I would say on so we'll put that on the third step of the podium. On the second step,
That's kind of how it works.
two F1 drivers compete to win fans prizes on McLaren Racing Channel, 4 minutes. This was a promo for one of their sponsors, Allwin. It was all right. I will say this. Lando and Oscar don't always have the greatest chemistry in these things. They're not bad, but it's not like a laugh fest like the Williams team is. This one was good. They were having fun. If you want to check it out, this is the one McLaren one recently that I've enjoyed. And then we challenged F1 drivers to this viral challenge. No one expected this. The Atlassian Williams F1 channel. It's about 4 minutes. Again, I loved it. Williams boys are doing it right. And the social media team at Williams deserves a shout out. You guys did a great job. The viral challenge is actually quite old. It's where you take alternate turns pouring water into a cup, and the person who overflows it loses. There were some strategic blunders made by both Carlos and Alex. I'll let you guys watch that and enjoy it. But with that, a brief edition of the Video Vault. We will close the door.
Do you think Williams are getting a bit too preoccupied with making good videos, and maybe they should get back to doing good cars and good results?
I mean, it would be good. When they said 26 is going to be our year, I think they meant in social media wise.
I think they did, unfortunately. Right, okay, race weekend. I didn't see a huge amount of practice, so I will just quickly say that across FP1, 2, and 3, it basically looked like Merck and Ferrari were going to be the best. McLaren looked like they were sniffing around, and Max, despite the fact they had to push his car a couple of times in FP1, also looked like he might be getting feisty. That was my practice in a nutshell when I basically watched about 12 minutes of it.
You watched 12 more than I did. I was on the road this week, the whole week, and I got home very late Thursday, and work got in the way on Friday. But yeah, I did see the highlight of them having trouble getting the Red Bulls out of the garage into the pit lane and moving. I'm like, well, that's, it's not great, but, could be worse. So then we go to quali, and it was hot. It was hot at the Austrian Grand Prix. And it was interesting to watch. I loved the first part of Q1. So I think I've said this before. I kind of usually look at quali sessions as the tale of two halves, Q1, Q2, Q3. I cut each one into half. The first run is usually the banker lap, get something in, nothing too crazy. And then the second half is usually where the money is made. And that's, for me, kind of more where you get standing in front of the television. You stand there, you're ready to see what comes across. It's rare that I have a lot of notes on the first half. However, Isaac was right on Max, same times as they went around, and I was shocked by this. The second part that I enjoyed watching was Caddy has these 10 upgrades they brought, and we're like, all right, are they going to be any good? Aston Martin was 1.3 seconds behind the Caddies. Wow. And so
I'm really getting overly optimistic here that Caddy's upgrades are good, because FP1, and I know FP1 is the worst indicator, FP1, Valtteri was 13th. Yeah. 13th out of 22. They've not been up that high. And I just think temperatures got in the way, as we will talk about when we get to the race. So totally I'm hoping they now got a car which is moving on from fighting with the Astons and maybe going to start chipping away at the Williams in front of them. But
Yep. And then we saw Antonelli, Lando, Lewis, Max look good. Racing Bulls looked good. A lot of teams were in the pits. Anyway, as we lost people at the end of Q1, we lost the Noah's Ark approach. The two Astons well behind the two caddies, who were pretty close to the two Williams. And so at this point, we're like, all right, kind of expected those 6 to go, and we go to Q2. I loved Q2, and I'm just going to cut to the end. Red Bull, it was either 1 race ago or 2 races ago where I made the comment in Q2. They left Isaac in the garage, and he was on the verge of being relegated out. And they just let him sit in the pits, and it was a shocker to me they did that. They did the same thing, but this time with Max. Max is falling down the board, and he's currently at 10th. And the gas man's coming around on a heater, and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to lose Max. He's going to start 11th. And
we actually had 3 in a row. We had 3 in a row that threatened it. I think the Hulk was looking feisty, then screwed up and lost time in the 3rd sector. Behrman did the same, was ahead of Max, but screwed up in the 3rd sector. And then, like you say, the Gasman came round. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was 0.04 of a second. And Andy, if you're listening, not 0.01 of a second. I did that for you. I got it right. 0.04 of a second he was off, pushing Max out to 11th. That is so close. I don't understand how nervous they must have been. Like, oh, we don't need to send Max out. We'll have a tire advantage in the race. And then they're watching this like, oh my God, did we just make a massive mistake? Anyway, they did not. Max made it through. We lost Franco, Esteban, the Hulk, and as Rob just said, Behrman, Bortoletto, and the gas man, who made the attempts to knock Max out but could not. So yeah, that was wild.
Q2's another Noah's Ark. It's both Alpines, both Audis, both Haas.
You're right.
Yep. So then we get down to Q3. So that means, by powers of deduction, we have 5 teams, all with 2 cars each in. This one, I like it. I do, not when it happens to Lewis, but I still kind of liked it, where someone messes up the first run, and then they're going to have to all the pressure is on the second run, and I kind of like a pressure run. And I was absolutely convinced Antonelli was going to get pole. He just seemed to he topped every single session apart from Q, whatever it was, 1 or 2. But he'd been the fastest all weekend. Absolutely adamant that he was going to come through flying at the end. Then all of a sudden, both Ferraris just seemed to just find a little bit of pace that they'd maybe been sleeping on in Q1 and Q2. And we're looking at the possibility of Charles and Lewis front row lockout. And I'm going nuts. I'm going, oh my God. I mocked Brian for saying that Lewis was going to win and Charles was going to be on the podium and Ferrari are back because it's happening, baby. Yeah. If we could just live in that little bubble for a while, I'd be a lot happier individual than the race delivered. But anyway, so then we suddenly see Max in a wall. Just binned it. Yeah. Absolutely binned it, which at first it just looked like a pushing too hard, turned in too early, back end stepped out. I think I've seen stories saying that the rear wing didn't close properly on the aero mode, and therefore he didn't get the aerodynamic performance he was expecting from every other lap he pushed on. So, but whatever the reason, he binned it big style.
Well, we were on board with him too, and so the Ferraris had just gone, and at least the feed I was watching, I'm on board with Max, and all of a sudden you just start to notice the car's aimed the wrong direction. You're like, wow, this isn't, and it felt like slow-mo for me as I'm watching it. I'm like, oh boy, oh no, he's going off, oh boy, and then you see the gravel and the car is bouncing, and then he obviously hits the wall pretty hard, and then the real confusion starts, because at this point I'm sure that the Ferraris have locked out the front row, and I'm like, all right, Ferrari's on the front row. And then as we're looking at the Max crash, all of a sudden George goes to the top of the timing tower. And I'm like, but how'd that happen? How that happen? Because Max's crash was at the second to last corner, or going into the last corner. So you would have thought that all of those laps would have been abandoned because everybody would have had to back out. And then we're discussing double-waved yellows and single-waved yellows and Marshall's timing of when they waved a yellow flag and when data showed yellows and what happened where. And it became the world's craziest, 4 minutes to figure out, did George get pole or not?
Yeah, and then what happened online, after all the actual evidence came out, but of course all the armchair pundits know better, and it's all this. There's a lot of people that don't like George. They use this as an opportunity to sort of lean in, and no, everything went by the book here. And what actually transpired is that it was a single waved yellow, which means you have to lift. George, the data shows that he was about half a second up anyway on pole.
Wow.
He lifted through that a yellow flag and only secured pole by 2/10, so a massive lift because
Yeah, he did.
5/10 up and only took pole by 2/10, so it was a lift. The telemetry showed it, and then what transpired more, and we had to have a whole Karen Chandok or maybe Anthony Davidson kind of explanation, was that Kimi had screwed up.
Right.
Kimi had misunderstood the flashing yellow as double waved
And backed out.
and thought it was all bets are off. These laps are going to get deleted. So had abandoned his lap, even though he was ahead of George on track. So when everyone's saying, "Oh, well, Kimi pulled out, though George's must be deleted," Kimi thought it was double waved. Toto even admitted this. Then they had to do this big thing showing, I didn't know this. Single panel yellow is a single waved yellow. A diagonal, so just half of a yellow, is a double, which kind of sounds like it's half as important as a single waved yellow. But anyway,
Or
the
twice
diagonal,
as much. I don't know.
yeah, the diagonal, so it just takes up a triangle. That is double, and that never came up. It was a
But
single.
George
So
knew
George
that.
lifted. He
Right.
got well. So George just knew the rules and operated within the rules.
Yeah.
Kimi got flustered, thought it was double, backed out, and then all the internet sleuths kicked in, and it was just
Well, kudos to George for knowing that, but more importantly, he put in a crazy lap. Anytime
lap.
it's that tight for pole position, and you are so far up that you can actually lift and still get pole, that is unbelievable. The lap he put in, it was amazing. So kudos to George. I mean, he deserves all that. That was a great lap.
He really did great lap. Now, the biggest debate that really came out of this, and I can see the merit to some degree, but man, I wouldn't want to be in charge of making this call, is people saying, well, it took too long to upgrade it to a double, because it did eventually. Someone, I think, said that the moment Max undoes his seat harness or pops something inside the car, that overrides something and automatically upgrades it to a double yellow anyway. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But like with any car that comes off the road, race direction have to make a call of, have they gone off in a weird area that no one else is likely to crash into? Is it far enough off the racing line that we can do this under single yellows? Do we have to go double? Do we have to go VSC? Do we have to go... All these things have to get taken into account. Like George said when he was being asked, he didn't even see Max. So people are saying now, people are jumping on George saying, well, that's not very sportsmanlike. He should have been slowing down to see if Max is okay. He's a race driver going for pole.
Yeah.
It's single yellow, so his brain is automatically wired to go, well, there's something going on, but all I've got to do is lift. It can't be that bad. Like he said, if it was double waved, double wave means slow down and be prepared to stop. But it's single. His onboard, unless Max has crashed, there's a little dot over there off on the left-hand side where it shouldn't be. Way off the racing line. A driver isn't scanning 180 degrees wondering what's going
He's
on.
watching
Look
the
at that.
corners ahead of him.
That guy's having an ice cream. I might have one of those later. No, he's looking at the apex.
Well, the only person who does that's Fernando, and he has a lot of time now. I agree with you. Here's the part that I think the internet is getting wrong, is the marshals are human. Race direction is human. So, like, it's not, they have to figure out what they're going to do. Oh, now it's time to elevate it to a double waved yellow, or he's getting out. Yeah, it takes a second for some of that to be figured out. And so,
took like 12 to 15 seconds for them
Right.
to upgrade it. It's not like it took 3.5 minutes of racing laps or
Right.
it's. Is there an area to explore that maybe the safety could be revisited and made better? Yeah, maybe. I'll give people that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been, but at the end of the day, no one broke any rules. No one got anything wrong. Race direction followed the protocol that they've got. I just think people need to
And
calm
George
down a
had
little
such an amazing lap. He still had time to lift and finish with pole. That's unbelievable.
Exactly. It's amazing. So
he started in first. Can we move off quality and go to the race?
yeah. Let's get to the race now.
Hot day in the Styrian hills. I would have sweat profusely. Thank God I wasn't at this one. This would have been a little hot for the Sat Man. Everybody starts on mediums, bar Bortoletto, and I think it was Sainz actually towards the back. They were on softs, and they are the softest tires in the Pirelli range. We were in the C3, C4, C5, and I'm gonna give a summary thought early because it's gonna come back a lot, and I want to get the theme out for me at least early. We talked very little once again about battery. This is the second or third race in a row where we talked very little about battery, and we talked a lot about tires. And it was a great race again. So
Yes.
I don't know if and I'm a little nervous, it's a old man get off my lawn, where it just feels familiar to me and therefore I'm enjoying it because of it. But I don't think so. I got a lot of texts from people who are newer to F1 who really enjoyed this race as well. So I feel okay saying it's not just me.
I'll come back to it at some point later because I think this was an absolute perfection example of how maybe these regs can absolutely nail it. So,
Yeah.
but he'd say that it was a hot one, yeah. And talking to somebody that was a little bit hot under the collar and probably screwed his own race up by maybe being a little bit too impatient, is Kimi Antonelli was so desperate to clear the Ferraris that he resorted to off-road racing to see if the quicker line was to go up through the fields where the cows graze and come back round the track. Because I've never seen somebody go off the track so many times in so few corners as he did. He was just all over the place.
3 times in the first 2 laps.
It's just...
What do you think Bono was saying to him over the radio? Like, Kimmy, could we stay on the track, please?
It was nuts. And because he did that, I think he had the pace to have got past those Ferraris earlier, but he just seemed ridiculously impatient to want to just maybe put right what he thought was the wrongs of qualifying, because he was probably going to get pole maybe in an alternate reality, but he misread the signs. And who knows? But whatever, he just seemed a little bit feisty. He then did do a dive bomb on Charles, but then again went off the track to keep it, so had to give it back again later. He was just all over the place.
And then my favorite thing is when you have to give a spot back, and as you do it, it brings someone else into the fray. And so as Kimi gives the spot back to Charles, Max is like, "Oh, hello," and he just pulls right up, bumper to bumper, like his bumper's on Charles's gearbox, and they both it takes a couple corners, but Max gets both, and I'm like, well done, Max. Max was here this weekend. The car was better. He likes this track. It's the Red Bull Ring. He has a ton of fans there, and he just was great, and he was on it. And whenever you saw Max in your rearview mirrors, I think everyone knew I'm in trouble. And, and he was bringing it.
Now, you said that you would be sweating if you were at this track. I mean, I think you would be. You'd be like the guy on Dumb and Dumber that they give the chili peppers to.
Oh, basically.
You'd be like that. With something else that didn't like the heat was the Cadillac.
Again.
Because Valtteri basically made 3 laps before we saw the most amount of foam and spray.
Was he in the car at that point? I haven't listened to Paul's thing.
All you could see was just white smoke.
All you could see, they cut to it real fast. I'm like, oh my God. And like, I know they were trying to put the fire out, and it's more dangerous when you're closer to the garage and there are more people. So like, they're very aggressive if you bring a car in on fire. And so they really did put it out. But was Valtteri still in the car? Because that can't be good for him. He's covered in all that stuff.
I don't know. And then people are sort of saying, oh, you know, Valtteri's getting all the bad luck. How come Checo's car seems to be okay? Don't worry. It was even treatment. 2 laps later or whatever it was, Checo has got smoking going on in it. Smoke means box. Smoke, retire the car. So he was gone as well. So within about the first 5 laps, both the caddies had no chance of showing if those upgrades had done anything, because right now it just seems that the handbrake was left on and it just set fire.
They have had problems with heat for 2 or 3 races now, and I know people aren't making a big deal about it, but we keep pointing out every time it's hot, something catches fire with the caddies, so they have to figure that out. We had Isaac and Liam battling for 8th. One thing I also noted is this will be about the last time anybody outside of McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes are anywhere near the top of the race. So Liam, thank you for the fun. This was great, and then all of a sudden it'll just be a 4-team battle for the top 8 spots.
Do you think Liam had been too close to a Cadillac and was smelling the smoke off their car? Because he was convinced he was on fire at one point, but it just seemed to get better. And I don't have much experience of fire, but it doesn't tend to usually get better.
I'm on fire. And like, are you really? And then he's racing. He did a great race. Great job to Liam. He was in witness protection, finished 9th because he wasn't invited to the top 8 party. But
now lap 7 is the bit that I wanted to put a pin in. I didn't put the pin in for long. But these regs, we always talked about how the guy in front now, rather than just DRS when you were sitting duck, with this battery, you should be able to deploy and use as you need to try to go on the defensive. And it will help you out sometimes. Maybe it won't. Like, can you use it in a place to stop the guy overtaking you? We had an onboard where you saw it beautifully, where Charles had kept Kimi at bay for the vast majority of the lap. And I think it's the final few corners. They were coming up the straight behind, and all of a sudden, Charles's back light starts blinking because he's basically having to harvest. And I'm done. I got nothing. I'm going to have to recover. And at that point, it's just like Kimi just hit turbo boost button like in Knight Rider and just went straight past him. I'm like,
he did.
I love the fact that today we saw so many overtakes. We probably saw an overtake on every single corner of the track.
Oh yeah, you're
like
totally right.
I
didn't think of that. There were overtakes in just about every corner, and then you'd fight back. The only time that I really even thought about battery and harvesting was this overtake, this particular one, because we were on board with Kimmy when we saw Charles's lights light up, and Karun rightly said, "Oh, he's out of battery, he's harvesting," and then like you say, Kimmy went right by it. And as at this point, lap 7, 8, 9, where we started getting a lot of the drone, and I need your opinion here because this also lit up my texts and some social media. We're about an hour after the race ended. And I saw a couple of social media posts about this. I liked it until I didn't. Meaning, I liked it the first time and maybe the second. And when they would first pick it up, the drone operator clearly had a flight path in mind. And we picked it up at about the same place. It was like turn 4 around the TV, then we'd go around. And I didn't like the beginning of it, but then he'd kind of, or she, would pan sideways and fly kind of on the side of the cars as they turned into 5 and 6. And I'm like, ooh, I like that one. Then the second time they did it, they were aimed at the grass for the first 2 minutes, and then they got the camera right, and I wanted to throw up. And then the third time, it was once again just the TV corner shot of the big TV screen they have there for the fans. And then again, the side-by-side, the alongside. So I kind of liked it, but they kept bailing out of good coverage to do this. And I'm like,
this, it's like they obviously had the drone reset to its starting position. So irrespective of what was going on, they would just go, right, cars in the right place, on track, drone is ready, go. And I loved it for the reason you just said. But the reason why I didn't was because, and sorry for people just listening to the pod, this is going to be the YouTube version, because every time it cut to it, I had to do this. Because it was just wrong. It was giving me motion sickness that the angle was so tilted, and then you kind of steady up, and the flyby side-by-side thing around that corner, that was beautiful. But there was some really weird stuff going on with TV direction, which I think we'll come up to
at
in a
least
minute.
Twice they left Crofty hanging as he was telling a story about something important on track. They just cut away from it. But anyway, so on lap 9, Max is catching Lewis for second, and this battle was phenomenal.
Chef's kiss.
And it lasted lap after lap. By lap 11, Max took Lewis into turn 3, and then they just continued to battle into 4. Lewis, I thought Lewis and Max both fair by the book, but hard battling. Lewis kind of pushed Max off to close the door. It was his corner. Lewis took it and said, well, if you could use the pedal or not, Max. And Max said no, and backed out, and of course he complained. And then as we're kind of watching replays of the start,
this is the thing.
Yeah.
We've got this epic battle developing, and somebody in race direction goes, I know we've got this epic Lewis versus Max thing going on, but wouldn't people like to see a replay of the start line again?
No,
I don't care about what happened at the start. I want to see this. And they shrink it into the world's tiniest picture-in-picture box, and you're like, I can't see anything now, and I don't care what happened at the start. Wait until there's a lull or a VSC or something, then show us the start. Totally. I was so angry, Brian.
I literally wrote, someone is boxing, and I couldn't see who it was, and it was Lewis. And he went on to hards. Then Charles boxed, so Ferrari seemed to be on a 3-stopper. They noted Lewis for forcing Max off, and of course there was no further investigation. But can I say this in the cool-down room? My favorite part of the cool-down room was this moment about this battle. And George is describing it from his car. And so he says, well, I was looking on my dash at the car behind me, and it just kept flipping. Ham, ver, ham, ver, ham, ver. And I'm dying laughing, imagining George trying to, out there leading the race, and he's trying to see who's second behind him, and it just keeps flipping.
I'd never thought of things like that before, that they'll get to see that kind of view of things as well. So, so here we had, where were we now? We were around 19. So we had, is this Max? So Max boxing's to hard. Is this no, this isn't the pit stop that ruins it, is it? This is later.
This is not when they left him out too long.
This is not, okay, okay. So I was... So we now kind of had lots of people pitting, lots of people deciding what strategy they were going on. We had lots of battles, even though, like Brian said, people might not be on the lead lap or challenging up at the top end anymore. We still had, like, Hajar was getting feisty, was doing some overtakes. We then had Kimi trying to rectify his start. I was wondering how long he was going to stay out there for. I think it was Kimi and Lando stayed out for a while. I'm like, okay. And every time, just as I thought, oh, interesting, I wonder what's going to happen. Box.
Exactly. 100%. Every time you were wondering if someone's going to go make this a one-stopper or stay out there, they all got called in. But when Max, he did get undercut by Lewis here, although Lewis whatever. The point is, Lewis had a 2.2 second lead after Max boxed. Cut it to a second a couple laps later. And then by lap 22, Max takes Lewis on turn 3. Lewis battles back into turn 4, but Max closes it out through the next couple corners. I loved this. Like, there were battles for almost every position on the track. And we saw so much of it, although there were a couple bad directions where we missed it. But it really made the race incredibly entertaining for me, 60 of the 70 laps. And here we are at 22, and I'm enjoying it because there's always action out there. And like you say, Rob, there wasn't a DRS pass on the straight and then it's over. It was a battle back. It was I'll fight you up the hill into turn 3, and then we're going to drag race to turn 4. And then whomever's ahead at turn 4 has to kind of like say, how hard am I going to close the door on this guy through 5, 6, 7. And it's epic battling. And then we'd get to like the last couple corners weren't a ton of overtakes, but there were some. And then you started on the straight again. And then here we are. And I'm like, this is great.
Do you think this has got like the highest occurrence of switchback overtakes on the calendar? Because you can almost actually purposely give up and let someone take you on the entrance to a corner, knowing that the switchback on a couple of those corners is so powerful that, they're going to come in hot, they're going to go up the inside, then they're going to go out wide, and the angle of these corners just seems to lend it to, well, I'm going to go out wide and switch back on you and take you up the inside again. It was just, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Turn 3 at Austria has always done that, though, because of that straight drag race to 4. And
felt like more, though, this year.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's because of the batteries or non-DRS, but... And then we saw the drone shot, which when they come downhill and they take that left-hander, which corner is that? Because we saw a couple of people, I think Max did it once as well, and Hadjar hang out around the outside.
Yeah, that's
then
5
later
and
on we
6,
saw Antonelli,
I think
Antonelli did an overtake up the inside of somebody around that corner.
Yeah. It was amazing. And then Isaac boxed, and I think he went from medium to medium, and I was very confused at this point. But again, realizing they were going to bring him back in, and again, I knew that. But I'm like, really? They're really in love with the mediums over there at Red Bull. They went medium to medium, fine. And then they debated this on the telecast for a while. Carlos stopped on track, and Kimi pulled in under a yellow flag and got a full price pit stop where he had to pay the full amount of time, and then went out. And as he's leaving, they announced VSC. So he lost 10 seconds-ish or 7 to 10 seconds by being out and boxing during the full, just a yellow and versus VSC. And the debate was, could they have known the timing of all this? And the answer is probably no, because you have to commit to the pits, and he was already committed to box, and he's inside that line. And by the time Carlos conked out, it was probably too late, is the way I seem to think.
I think that's what Bernie said. I'm going to side with
and
her.
I 100%. Bernie is amazing. And so I think that's what she said. I'm going to go with Bernie. But later, as they were debating his luck, because then later on in the race, when he boxed again, 1 lap off of a VSC, it's not that he has bad luck. He just didn't have good luck.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
It didn't cost him anything.
Right.
He just didn't gain anything.
Exactly. So I thought that was actually well said. He didn't have bad luck, meaning like he wasn't leading the race and then the VSC happened and his competitor got it. He just didn't have good luck. And that stunk for Kimi, but it was kind of like that kind of day where he was overdriving the car in the beginning. He's off the track the whole time. He didn't get any luck with the VSCs. It just wasn't going to be his day to win. And he still drove a brilliant race, and he gave us an amazing closing to this race.
Oh, yeah, he did. So, I can't remember when it was somewhere around here, though, when somebody was overtaking. I think it might have been Lawson, one of Lawson's final overtakes, when the two red racing balls were going against each other, maybe. And it cut to a camera angle, which is not the camera person's fault, but the dude was sat there in the way. And Crofty went,
Oh.
Well, I think the guy in the cap probably got a good view of what just happened then, but we didn't see it.
It was turn 3. It was into turn 3, and all we saw was the back of the guy's head. I'm like, why would we need that? Anyway, Kimi's taken Charles. Charles had a day to forget. Lewis sort of did, but not quite as bad. Charles definitely had a day to forget. And Kimi took Charles, and we see the Ferrari smoking, which Rob and I have actually talked about. I think last race we were talking about the Ferrari occasionally smoking, and I forgot about that. And I'm watching, I'm like, well, that's not good. And then they said, that's normal. I'm like, is it really, though? But apparently. And so Kimi gets Charles on lap 30, around turn 4, into that turn 4 with the big TV and the drone. And then Lewis takes Isaac at the same time. It was a little hard to actually figure out what was going on for me because they kept cutting between the two so fast. But like I said, it was just excellent action, and we had a really sort of fun top 10 halfway into this race-ish, lap 31. We had George, Max, Kimi, Charles, Oscar, Lewis, Isaac, Lando. Full stop, 4 teams, 8 people. And then we had both Racing Bulls, Arvid and Liam. And Arvid was ahead of Liam at this point, but I think the pit stops hadn't played out yet for the Racing Bulls.
Yeah.
I think that was some of the difference. And then I just have to say this real fast. Lap 36, Karun. Oscar is the meat. You're going good so far. In a Ferrari sandwich. Nope, so close. It was like you were almost there. You knew it was the meat in the McLaren sandwich or the Oscar sandwich, whatever but you don't name it after the bread, Karun. We've done videos on this.
And then we got the Ferraris. Everything played out in Lewis's pits. He was always behind Charles, and it wouldn't take long for him to reel him in. I think Lewis must have overtaken Charles about 1,500 times today. Charles must have hated it because he just kept getting gobbled up by his teammate constantly. He lost a piece of his wing on Oscar when Oscar went past him. It just was a day at the office to forget for Charles, really. But then all of a sudden at the front, you start noticing that this lead is getting chipped away. Max is catching George at a decent rate of knots. And I'm like, hello? This is starting to get... I thought George had not driven off into the distance because he was never really more than 4 or 5 seconds away. But it was noticeable that Max had just suddenly decided this phase of the race is when I'm going to reel in the leader. And it was just looking good until it wasn't.
Yeah, it was like when George boxed first, and it was somewhere in the like 45-ish, 44. Max didn't box until 50, and those 5 laps cost him dearly in terms of time.
Let me ask you, because this is a good place to ask you, as good as anywhere else. If, for me, being the highly paid Formula One strategic thinker that I am, he either has to cover off George and go in the next lap after and just lose, he was, whatever it was, 1.2 behind. Maybe he comes out 2.2 and loses a second in the undercut a little bit or whatever it was. But it wouldn't have been magnitudes of seconds. It would have just put him back a little bit, right? Or he goes the opposite way and he really extends this to try to get real big tyre offset at the end and maybe even bring it into the window of finishing the race on mediums instead of going to another set of hards. But by going in the middle, they were neither one foot in either camp. They were just sort of, well, we haven't matched George and we haven't really got that significant a tyre offset. We're just going to go now. I don't know if it's because Max was losing so much time and the tyres had given up. Maybe they were forced into doing it because it would have been even worse if they tried to extend. But Red Bull don't get it wrong very often. No. It just felt that they should have covered they should have had Max cover George off.
Yeah, it's a great point. We've actually talked about that a lot, I think, over the years, is you got to be more decisive. And Hannah Schmitz is an amazing strategist. Like you say, they don't get it wrong. It felt like there's got to be something we didn't know why they were waiting a little bit longer, something where they didn't like where they were going to slot back in after the pit stop, maybe. Someone was in their window. I don't know. But it was weird. You either commit to covering off the person who you're racing, George, and box right away so you have similar times, or you go longer. There's no reason to go, and I've said this before, like there's no reason, usually for Ferrari, there's no reason to wait 5 or 6 laps. McLaren's done this over the years. It drives me nuts. Either box to cover off or extend, but don't do something in between, which is bad for both. It doesn't get either done. So yeah, I'm with you. Speaking of boxing, at this point, they show a rerun of Lando going into the pits, and it was like it's rare when you see a video of someone coming into the pits boxing and then the entire time they leave, you watch the whole thing. The reason they did is it was an unbelievable shambles to watch this whole thing. First of all, he comes upon Lance Stroll in a stricken Aston Martin. Lance is told to box, retire the car. He's going about 12 miles an hour. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
If that.
And so Lando pulls inside into, it's not even the slow lane yet. It's like where the scales are, and he kind of passes them on the inside. Now, they are the first box there because of they're champions. So it's kind of like an early entrance into his pit box, if you will. And give me that a little generously. But then he leaves, and he decides Franco Colapinto's here, and instead of hitting him, I'm just going to sit next to him the whole time. And at some point, Lando's like, wait, hold on a second. He's got to turn to the right here pretty soon, and I'm going to have to let him go. So he backs off a little bit. I'm like, what was the point of that? That was weird. Like, were you going to drag race him to the end and then realize he had to pull over? I'm surprised Lando didn't get a penalty for something along that way. That just felt like a big bunch of mess.
It did. So then we had, like we just discussed, Max boxing. We had Lewis passing Charles for the 15,000th time, and then
It
we
may
had
have been
Alex
orchestrated.
Albon.
We weren't sure, but
We're not sure. I don't think it was. 'Cause
I
it
don't
looked
think
the
it
same
was
as
either.
all the previous ones.
Sorry, Charles. I don't think
Um,
it was either.
Then Alex Albon got really fed up in witness protection, so decided to just take his anger out of not getting any TV coverage. But how can I get covered on TV? I know. I'll just totally drive across the corner of cut the corner and take a bollard out. That'll show
It
him.
wasn't even close. Wasn't even close. It didn't like graze it. I mean, he hit it right on the wing, bang, right, right, solid in. And then that was the surprise VSC. And Kimi had just boxed the lap before, so once again, like we said, just not bad luck.
It
Just
wouldn't.
didn't get
That
good
one.
luck.
That
It was
one
too
wasn't
fast.
any
It was
luck
too
because
fast,
it literally VSC was out for about 3 seconds. I think
Right.
the marshal came out, picked up the bollard, and it was all done. We got a little bit of a teaser trailer that maybe rain was coming, but that was just to really just to tease us because it never arrived.
The Noah's Ark, as I joked, the top 4 teams and all 8 drivers were basically guaranteed a spot in that top 8. It was just a matter of how the machine ended at the end with pit stops. 9 and 10 were Racing Bulls. We already talked about Arvid being in front at a good handful of points, but then obviously the pit stops worked their way through. And then 11 and 12 were Audi. And as we've talked about, was it last week when we were doing the 1/3 review and we were commenting most 11s and 12s.
The point.
Right. They own 11 and 12. You think you're 11 and 12? I'm 11 and 12. And Audi's
11th and 12th, sponsored by Audi.
and then there they were, 11 and 12. I'm like, who could have seen that coming? Oh,
And then it just, as they do with these types, because just the tire degradation, the temperatures and everything, we did get that kind of little bit of a slowdown from probably 55 through to about
yeah.
61 when we're going into the final 10, where what you're really looking at is Max chipping away enough into George's lead? And I got all excited at one point. It was after the VSC restart. I don't know if you caught this. After the bollard, Max was 10 seconds, before the VSC was thrown, Max was 10.1 seconds behind George. VSC got thrown. End of VSC, Max was 13.1 behind George. I'm like, well, how's that happen? What's gone on there? How is you're not allowed? You're supposed to maintain a delta. How has Max suddenly lost 3 seconds to George? And so as I was thinking about this, I didn't even have time to think about it when all of a sudden Max was 8 seconds behind George. Well, where did those 5 go? Now I don't know if the replay that we saw way later in the race of George going off for a little adventure at turn 1 and going off road, that had to have been then, and we saw it delayed because I think that's what cost him all the time. So we're kind of trying to do the math now and working out whether or not he's going to catch him. Is he going to eat into it enough? And just as we're getting, we're getting our abacuses out and working this out. Yeah, there could be a last couple of laps showdown. They brought Laurent Mekies on to ruin everything and quash any hope that we had. Because they bring him on, I think, trying for this big sort of like, right, let's get the TV audience ready for this big finish. So, Laurent, do you think, what's going on? Are you happy with how things are going? Yeah, but I don't think Max has got the pace to catch George. We're probably going to run short by a few laps, which is exactly how it pans out. And we got told this with 11 laps to go. Thanks, Laurent, for ruining, letting us all down and stopping us dream.
The only thing that was worse for me as a Charles fan was we watched Charles just tumble like a rock. His tires were dead. He hadn't had his last stop yet, and he's out there on just what had to have been carcasses of tires. 56, Isaac passes Charles into turn 3. They fight back into that downhill towards that turn 4 drag race and then around the corner. Both locked up, in my opinion. Everyone said Charles did, and someone said Isaac did. I saw smoke coming from both tires.
They both. This is the one I think where they locked up and Charles went deep around there, and
further,
I think Isaac then switched back and went round the inside of that drone
and
corner,
powered through.
and then powered, but looked like he was starting to drift ever so slightly out into Charles.
Yes.
I was like, oh no, this isn't going to be good. And the reason I knew this wasn't going to be good, I was hoping it wasn't me, because those two were my blackjack pit. And I was like, if Isaac puts his foot down here and collects both of them, I'm definitely finishing on 0 points.
There you go. Well, that was a great battle. Isaac powered out and was fine. And then lap 60, Lando passes Charles as we see the radio message. Charles like, why would we not box at this point? These tires are done. We got loads of space to the Racing Bulls. So they did, and he came out 8th. And that's where he finished because they had a bad race. It just didn't work out for them. But I loved this race, and I loved the end, even though, like you say, it wasn't quite as wild the last 10 or so laps. But then, right as you're getting close to the end, and like you say, Laurent says Max won't catch George. And you're like, all right, he's not quite going to get him. But Kimmy's like, hang on, I think I can get Max. And so you watch Kimmy. This is why I love a young, like, aggressive driver like this. He was throwing everything at it, trying to get Max at the end. And you could actually see him around turn 9 onto the final home straight. The car is twitching because he's giving it gas. It's sliding sideways, sliding forward. He's throwing everything at it. And it was like 0.3 of a second he finished behind him at the line, although I think Max was kind of easing up as he hit the start-finish line. But regardless, loved it.
I did, but I don't know if that was him just hanging it out and destroying his tyres on the last lap, because I hope it was, because if it wasn't, maybe he should have thought about doing that charge like 2 laps earlier.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was.
But no, it was a good finish. I think top 3 separated by about whatever it was, 2 seconds, which is always nice to see. So yeah, we had George from Max from Kimi, which really flew in the face of Brian's pre-practice podium predictions of no Mercedes on the podium.
Hey, you got to be bold or go home, and I wanted to go home for my trip, so I went home.
Piastri from Hamilton, from Hadjar, from Norris, from Leclerc, from Lawson and Lindblad, and then I normally only crop out the top 10 for the points, but just for you, I made sure I cropped out 11th of 12th because, surprise, surprise,
Bortoletto and Hulkenberg. Audi. Yeah, Piastri 4th. It's rare when you see a 4th place that anonymous. And he was looking fast at times. He'd grab a fastest lap occasionally, and we rarely saw them. We saw Lando a couple times complaining about his car. Lando finished 7th. Hamilton in 5th. A lot of coverage of him in the beginning and some great battles, and then he just kind of faded away in 5th place, just kind of owned 5th by himself. Isaac, I thought, had a good race. Would love to see him battling a little higher up because Max showed that car is frisky, but still 6th place, nothing to sneeze at, ahead of Lando and ahead of Charles. Charles in 8th, that's got to be a really disappointing weekend. He finished the weekend. He finished the race. He did not DNF, and it was just anonymous. He was the last of the top teams, and he never really made a dent on anybody. Every time he saw Charles, he was getting overtaken. So like that wasn't particularly great. Like we said, Liam's car was on fire, and then it wasn't. He finished 9th, but it was a lap down. So the top 8 all on the lead lap, all battling for those spots. 4 teams really made it happen, and then it was Racing Bulls followed by Audi for best of the rest.
Yep. So should we King of the Pits and Pits it?
Let's do it. Let's start with the king.
Hey, you're the king of the pit.
Would you like to go first, or shall I?
I think I will this week. Last week we counted down from 3 and both said Lewis, and the week before you went first with Kimmy, so I'll go first. And I know he's not everyone's favourite cup of tea, but yabba dabba doo. Please never say that again, or whatever he said when he crossed the line. But George.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on George.
I got to give it to George because he did everything he needed to do. That was a phenomenal lap to get pole. If he hadn't up to lift, if there wasn't, he was going to take like half a second off the Ferraris, which is absolutely insane. He never crumbled. Every time he saw a Mac-shaped object in his rear view mirror, he could have easily screwed the pooch at some time along the way, and he just got on with it. I very close to wanting to give it to Max because I thought he drove the wheels off that thing. Red Bull looked like they might be turning a corner, but they've done that a few times this year, and they're still yet to really show up. But no, good weekend for George. Got to give it to him.
I'm with you.
So you agree, yeah?
100%. Let's talk about the pits.
You're the pits.
I'm going to go first because this is going to hurt me. So I look up and down the grid, and as Liam has matured as a driver, we don't see as many ridiculous mistakes out of him anymore, and as many times running people off the track. He doesn't do that as much anymore. And Lance, his car is so bad, he can't even be Lance half the time. He can't block up and slide into people like he used to do. So Lance isn't out there lancing. Okay. We have professional drivers at Caddy whose cars are catching fire. So they don't make big mistakes at the back. So what I'm saying is there aren't it's not as easy to hand someone the pits because they're just a bad driver or having a bad drive. And I'm saying all this because this is going to hurt me. I'm giving it to Charles. He was on pole when Max crashed. And then George got around on the single waved yellow, took pole, and from that point on, Charles's weekend died. That race, that Ferrari, remember the 5 horsepower I made a joke about? Turns out I was right. They need more than 5 because on the straights, the other teams were joking, like in the cooldown room, like that car is not fast in the straights. It is not fast in the straights, and so the race pace is not there. And Charles also wasn't there. It wasn't a good weekend for him. And so I'm giving it to my boy, Charles Chuck Leclerc.
You gave it to him last week as well.
I know.
That's two on the spin for him. And I gave it to him last week as well. And it's going to be 2 on the spin for me as well. I just look at Lewis. Didn't Lewis do an extra pit stop than him?
I think.
Oh no! Leclerc did.
Yeah, he did the late one.
He did the token gesture one, but even if he hadn't done the token gesture one, because at that point he'd given up and said we might as well just I'm 8th, I might as well just take it. So he wasn't really supposed to take that pit stop. They just did it because they could. But even at that point, he was so far behind Lewis. Okay, the car wasn't as fast, fine, but then it isn't as fast for both of them,
right?
And Lewis didn't have a great, he had an okay race. He was up there. He never really kind of got caught up with the Max battle, which probably diverted him from being able to go after George, but kind of hung it out there, brought it home 5th. Charles finished like over 20 seconds behind his teammate and never really featured. The only time we ever saw him all weekend was him getting overtaken, basically. Right.
Yeah, and it felt like Lewis's strategy also was more aggressive. He boxed early. I know Charles boxed right pretty soon after him, but it just felt like Lewis had a plan. And he was out there driving aggressively, and he was fighting Max, fighting people. Like you say, maybe it took him off his game a little in terms of his game plan. Lewis was an attacking driver. Charles was just out there. And I love Charles. So, this is killing me. Let's hope for a better weekend in Britain next weekend for him.
I hope so. And I dread to hear what's going to happen when we hear from our friend, because Caddy did not have the best weekend. No. So I can only dread to think what Mr. Pitlane Paul's about to say.
Here's his music, and then here's the review. We have not heard the review, so it'll be fresh to both of us. Paul, as always, thank you for doing these.
Hey now. Well, I'll set the scene. I'm currently sat on the, what road is this? S18 in Austria. The race finished about 40 minutes ago, so that kind of tells you the afternoon I've had. And in terms of reviews, well, let's try. I actually landed from the UK into Nice last Tuesday because after Spain I parked my camper van in Veltris House, which it kind of makes sense because it's kind of on the road towards Austria, and I'm driving Barcelona to Austria, so that was quite good. And then realistically, Nice to, or let's say Monaco to Red Bull Ring, it's around maybe 8 hours, 9 hours, maybe 8 hours. So I took it upon myself to have a night in Venice. I've never been, heard lovely things about it. So I thought, well, we may as well, I've got the camper van, I may as well have a little drive out, stay the night in Venice, and then potter up to Austria the following day. So I did, and then, so I went around Venice. I had a pizza. Then watched the football, England versus Ghana in the World Cup of football, and that was largely disappointing. And then, the next following day, I had a lovely drive up to Austria, and got in around 1 o'clock. Didn't have a particularly early start. I decided I'd have a nice drive up early. Got into Austria. It's a lovely area driving up through the Alps. It's stunning, actually. The road, Italy, up towards Austria. It's absolutely fantastic. Love that. And then, as I got there, washed the camper down, got things set up, went shopping, then sort of got settled in. Went out for a schnitzel that evening, so I'd eat out with a few of the team. That was very very good fun. Then Valtteri arrived on Thursday morning. He flew in from Finland. Actually, he was in Finland for the week. Went back home. And yeah, we had a lovely week. Really, it was okay. He had a driver's dinner on Thursday evening, so we didn't really have much of a dinner. Friday we did our own thing, and last night we sort of had a barbecue. I had some steak left. He had some chicken. And we bought a load of sausages. So yeah, all in all, it was a really lovely week this time. Really enjoyed it. Austria is a stunning country. If you ever get the chance to go, traffic's just cleared up. So I'm currently driving to Frankfurt, just to give everyone a little bit of knowledge of what I'm doing. Then I'll park the camper van in Frankfurt because I don't need to really take it to Silverstone. There's no point 'cause I live just down the road. So I'll park it up in Austria, in Frankfurt, and then a week or so's time I'll fly back out to Frankfurt and then drive into Spa. So all makes kind of good sense, really. So yeah, that kind of sums up my week in Austria. It's a beautiful, stunning Red Bull Ring. I suppose I could talk. I don't know who won the race. I think it was George. I've heard a rumour that Max may have been second. I don't actually know. And then Killy, but I left before the end because I won't lie to you. For us, it was shit. See you later, folks. See you next time. Wow.
Wow is right.
Wow.
3 minutes and 56-second review, and we got 10 seconds of the race because that's what Paul was that frustrated.
But that's what he's famous for, is his travel facts, you know?
That's true.
Where remember the cows of...
Milking cows in Saudi Arabia, or where were we? It was somewhere in the Middle East.
Right, okay, let's wrap up the race weekend. So, casino game picks. The roulette table gave us number 9, who was Liam Lawson. Neither me or the SAP got that. I went Gasly, you went Lindblad. You were close. If you had one DNF,
for a long
you were
time.
real close. Yep. Didn't work for you. Blackjack, I had Charles and Isaac, as I referenced. They didn't take each other out. They accumulated 12 points, which I knew was solid, but wasn't going to be enough. I was just hoping maybe there could be a DNF to bring one of the Papaya boys up so that Brian would go bust, but he didn't. He got a solid score of 18 with Oscar and Lando.
Nice.
So he takes the blackjack hand. However, I come out of the week 1 point up on Brian because while he gets the blackjack point, we tie, 2 points each because he gets the point for blackjack. Podium predictions, as we've alluded to, he went Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, went very bold and got 1 point for at least getting Verstappen on the podium. I went for Antonelli from Russell from Hamilton. We both drank too much hopium around Hamilton. I picked up 2 points for getting Antonelli and Russell on the podium, but in the wrong positions. So it's as you were, really, 2 points each.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I was proud of that blackjack. 18's not a bad hand.
That's a good one. So is fantasy still updating, or do you have a
still updating? It's provisional, and it looks like it's changing around a little. So we will do a full fantasy next time. And actually, because we're doing this rather quickly after the race, I don't have SAP stats this time. So I apologize.
That's okay, because we've got to roll straight into a Silverstone preview because we don't even get to breathe, and it's back to one of my favourite races of the calendar. Not just because I'm British, because it always serves up an absolute barnstormer of a race, which we will talk about in a second when we look at last year's. So Silverstone, British Grand Prix, was from 1950 to 1987. It went back and forth between Silverstone and Brands Hatch and Aintree, and then it's settled on Silverstone ever since. It's an old RAF airbase from the 40s, and it's 3.661 miles with 18 corners, and I say this every year, and I'm going to say it again now, 18 corners, of which one of them is named Vale. Don't find any SAP corners out in the world.
Hey! When I was there for practice in 24, I took pictures of the Vale corner.
I know you did. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. So last year, quali was nothing spectacular. Max took pole from Oscar and Lando, but race. Oh, I look back at our one-liner that we did on the race recap, and it said, "Any new viewers to this sport watch an epic race full of pure chaos." That was our summary from last year, with also hashtag the most emotional podium ever.
Yeah.
So we had the race started in damp conditions, about 6 or 7 cars, I think it was 6, bailed straight in after the formation lap to go on to slicks because they started on inters and it just blatantly wasn't wet enough for that. So off they went. We had a few early VSCs because those damp, greasy conditions had a few slide-ons. And then lap 11, the rain came back big time. By lap 14, the safety car had to come out because of poor visibility. People were going off the road. They could barely keep it. It was like Bambi on ice on the inters, the
Yep.
amount of rain that was coming down. If you remember, we had the restart when we saw the onboard of Hadjar coming through the spray and collecting Antonelli at high speed.
There was no car, and then all of a sudden there was a car.
Oh, that was bad. And then we had Piastri given a 10-second penalty for his erratic braking when he basically slammed on the brakes for no real reason before the restart to almost force Max to go past him, trying to, I guess, get Max into trouble. We both agreed that it was probably a deserved
Yeah,
penalty. All the telemetry showed that he'd basically brake checked Max as
yeah.
much as he was complaining about it. Um, so then, when both the McLarens pitted, Oscar served his penalty. Lando took the lead, and Oscar started whining a little bit that the penalty wasn't fair and that Lando should give the position back.
Yeah, not a chance.
Never gonna, never gonna happen.
I mean, this is a nice to hope. But yeah, that it was deserved. Max actually spun, if you remember, after that when they restarted. He kind of did a pirouette there and kept it going. But regardless, yes, Oscar was complaining. Lando took the win, his home Grand Prix. The Lando stands loved it, went nuts. The whole crowd went nuts. And then we were all cheering for Hulk to hold on to third, and he did. In second. He was in second.
Your notes say something along the lines of no, he was in third. I mistyped that. Hulk.
Okay,
I got
that's what I
excited.
thought. Yeah.
It was third. It was third. I just but your notes from last year were like, I cannot breathe. I'm holding my breath. Can Hulkenberg please? And then every time the commentator started reading off the stats of like 3,000 million races without being on the podium, and like you've written in all caps, please no commentators curse. Please, sharp, stop talking.
Well, it was Lewis reeling him in too, and
Yeah.
oh, and Lewis was having a bad season at Ferrari, so a lot of people probably said, well, Lewis getting on the podium would be a good thing for him, but everyone else is like, well, Hulk's gonna. This is his one chance in 4,072 races.
Yep.
Yeah, that was wild. It was a great race last year. I think when we did the Discord review, we all almost unanimously voted it one of the best races of the year.
Yeah, it was superb. But again, like we mentioned last week, kind of because good old English Mother Nature gets involved quite often. It's a fantastic track. Even when it's dry, we can get some great racing. But when the weather kicks in, it really dials it up a notch. So we'll see what next week brings. Although if we're still in the heat wave in Europe, I'm not sure we are going to get that British summer. But anyway, so repeat winners here. Lewis Hamilton leads the way with 9, from Jim Clark and Alain Prost with 5. Mansell has got 4. Brabham, Lauda, and Schumacher have got 3, and then there's about a million of them on 2. Constructors, it's Ferrari with 18. So,
Wow.
who knows? Maybe Lewis and Ferrari can both add to that one this time round.
If they're that slow on the straights, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, I know. And then 15 for McLaren, 10 for Mercedes and Williams. Williams, sorry, you ain't adding anything to it this week. I would say Mercedes might
No.
break away from you and go to 11. 8 for Lotus, 4 for Red Bull, and then a gazillion with 2. So final thing to close out the week is to fire up the roulette table and see what we're going to do for our casino picks.
Let's do it. Whoa, boy. Oh, man.
22.
We've gone high again, which is like we'd had a couple of those out of the blue. 5. 5th position on the grid.
You, sir, are up first.
Oh, boy. God, 5. I do believe that we have a 4-team battle at the top. So there are 8 drivers this is in their wheelhouse. Yep. I think the Mercedes are too good. I was wrong trying to go bold. I went home. So it leaves me with 6 people to pick. And I'm going to have to say that the Ferraris lack the straight line speed. So for 5th, without going crazy here, I'm going to go with Lewis.
That's who I wanted. So I think I'm just going to have to cover you off and go Charles, because I agree with everything you just said. I think the other cars are too quick. I think if you've got the 2 Mercs there, the 2 McLarens, then it's Charles versus Lewis for 5th, I think, all things being equal. But yeah, okay, right. Blackjack then. Oh, the unpredictability of Ferrari really hurts when
Yes.
trying to do this. Now I'm worried about trying to copy you and going the Papaya Boys because where will Max slot in Silverstone? He does like that track as well. Where will oh, screw it. I'm going to do your pick of the double whammy, but I'm just going to go all in. So I'm just going to go Charles and Lewis. We're going to take the Ferrari boys.
Wow. All right. Wow. Interesting.
Because now I feel like you're going to have to take somebody that risks winning it.
Or,
I
yeah.
kind of covered you off there, so let's just see.
But it feels like, I feel like there's three people. Again, this is too early. We haven't gotten into the week. It feels like the Mercedes and Max are the ones who I think could win. And that, obviously, you go bust at that point. So for me, I think I'm going to do. You want Ferrari boys?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Lando, but I'm not going full papaya because I think I could be in trouble. I'm going to go Lando, and then I'm going to go Liam.
Lando?
No, I think I made a big mistake there.
Oh, you're taking the finger off the piece now. Your finger is off the piece. Yeah, it's off the piece.
Lando and Liam. That's a terrible pick, but as long as Lando
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
I think Lando's going to be third or fourth or so, and I was looking for more points, I think, from Liam. I made a mistake. But regardless, I should have gone Isaac. There it is. Big mistake. That's
and
all right.
then midweek, we will do our podium predictions, and we will invite one of you, to come and add your listener predictions. So last week we had Sam, who was very similar to Sap and was going heavy on the Ferrari. He's already posted on the podium predictions that he featured on, and he didn't comment on it. He requoted it, and his line was, "Never buy into the Ferrari hype train. I should have known better." So, but thank you for doing it, Sam. And
Sam,
we had a number of people that replied on last week's thread. I said it was first come, first served. Sam was up first, so keep an eye out. We normally do podium predictions on a Wednesday, so what I'll do is I'll throw it out on Tuesday evening, most likely. And get your name down first. Do what Sam did. Quick selfie, 15, 20-second video. Boom. See if you can beat us, because it's not hard.
It is not hard to beat us, but we always have fun doing it. We hope you had fun listening. We can't wait for the British Grand Prix this next weekend. Join us in 1 week's time Join us in 1 week's time as we recap that. We hope everybody has a wonderful week. Be well, be safe, everybody.